2,500 years ago, there was nothing in the world to compare with this picture. At the time, Rome was still a village of mud huts. Constantinople didn't exist, and it would be over 2,000 years before the first house was constructed in New York. Nebuchadnezzar proudly stated, "That which no former king has done, I have achieved." Professor Walter Sommerfeld of the University of Marburg speculates at how the people who lived in this metropolis celebrated their cult festivals.
Man muss sich ein Fest so vorstellen, dass im Mittelpunkt die sehr eindrucksvollen Götterbilder standen.
You have to imagine a festival with an extremely impressive statue of a god in a central position. It was huge and brightly coloured, with ceremonial decorations. The king was there, along with the high priests. There was singing by the light of the flaming torches. Something of a similar kind of religious sentiment is still found today in India. We can't take part in Babylonian festivals like this anymore, but at least there are a great many parallels in India that enable us to capture something of the atmosphere of that time.
The great processional way in Babylon may have resembled this. There are considerable parallels between the religious festivals celebrated each year by the people of Puri in eastern India and Nebuchadnezzar's great New Year's festival, an ancient religious tradition that perhaps spread from Babylon to India, or the other way round. The comparison of the celebrations in India with accounts written on ancient clay tablets is certainly striking. Just as in the New Year festival of ancient Babylon, the ancient statues of the gods are brought out of the temple in Puri, draped with ceremonial decorations and placed on a sacred cart. The king of Puri has been likened to a reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar. As in Nebuchadnezzar's day, the king has to follow the customs closely, as they're the rules of the gods. Just as Nebuchadnezzar once did, he has to clean the cart in a ritual gesture. This religious ceremony serves to legitimize his rule and to renew the bond between king, God, and the people. The entire population is caught up in the euphoric ritual. Finally, everyone comes together to pull the statue of the gods through the streets, hauling it along on its massive ropes. Religion here is not an abstract concept, but something that is lived and revered every day. The hectic bustle of the carnival route in Puri is a modern reflection of the ancient rituals 2,500 years ago in Babylon. The German archaeologist Koldewey excavated part of the ancient city of Babylon in the early 1900s and continued to make new discoveries at the site for the following 18 years. But he was never able to grasp at anything more than the rubble and bricks. The ancient world of the Orient remained a mystery to him. But his imagination sometimes constructed gigantic palaces from a little rubble. And he once wrote in a telegram to Berlin, "I have discovered the hanging gardens of Semiramis." In fact, he had found nothing more than the extensive ruined walls around Nebuchadnezzar's southern fortress. But his eagerness led him to believe that such huge walls must have supported an enormous superstructure, like the Hanging Gardens, as depicted in a 3,000-year-old Assyrian stone relief. Did the legendary terraced gardens of Semiramis ever exist, or was it just a fantasy created by later generations? With the aid of another model, archaeologist Professor Michael Promer discovered the Hanging Gardens could have existed.
The precise measurements and the carefully thought-out construction indicate that this must have been a real structure. Of course, we are not faced with the incredible weight of material and the need to make everything watertight, which must have been a special problem, a massive problem for the engineers of the time. And they tried everything possible: lead sheets, asphalt lining, and layers of tiles, and then vaults underneath. And of course, we have no idea how watertight it really was, but it's an incredible project, and it was never attempted again in this form. At the back, the water supply was apparently fed up to the top level, and it seems that the water was allowed to seep down via these terraces, which means that the whole structure was permanently underwater. And you can see from the gigantic walls, from the thickness of the walls, in comparison to the quite narrow vaults, that they were well aware of this problem. It was thought that the roots of the trees would reach right down to the bottom, which is of course nonsense. But that's what the people thought. It must all have been filled with soil, which would mean the water would seep through. So keeping this building in a stable condition was a miracle in itself. You have to remember that.
It appeared that the Hanging Garden of Semiramis was not a legend, but reality. In Iraq, there were still water wheels in use that could have brought water from the Euphrates to irrigate the gardens. A park area of this kind must have been the crowning glory of a city like Babylon. A feature of immense prestige that may well have attracted even more admiration in the blistering heat of the Orient than the Tower of Babel, standing 100 meters high. But the figure of Princess Semiramis, with whom Nebuchadnezzar is said to have fallen in love, does not stand up to historical examination. She was just a legend. Together, Princess Semiramis and her Hanging Gardens formed a romantic symbol of the most amazing metropolis in the ancient Orient. Ancient Babylon was a dream city of international fame and the gateway of the gods. But it was a dream that collapsed with astonishing speed. It is perhaps the greatest tragedy that the immensely powerful city walls never really had to defend Babylon against an enemy. The reign was eroded from within. Nebuchadnezzar's successor, Nabonidus, was overthrown by his own priests. And then suddenly, Babylon was little more than a footnote in the annals of history. In the end, the Bible seems to have been correct when it made the terrible prophecy, "The city shall be rotten and destroyed for all time, and never more shall Babylon be inhabited, and nobody shall live there again, neither people nor cattle, forevermore."